Friday the 13th was released in 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham and starring Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, and Kevin Bacon. The plot follows a group of camp counselors who are murdered one by an unknown killer while attempting to reopen an abandoned summer camp. The Friday the 13th franchise is my all-time favorite horror series, so needless to say, I'm really excited to cover all of these films. To help me with this first review, I've enlisted some help from fellow horror tuber Thrillhouse of Horror. Take it away, Alex.
Hey man, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm especially stoked that I get to talk about Friday the 13th because, come on. Talk about one of the absolute classics. First and foremost, I was shocked by how slow the movie actually is. I'm dead serious. For a slasher movie, I got pretty bored. And honestly, I love the movie. Don't get me wrong. I want to make it very clear that this is a movie I genuinely love and enjoy. I guess I'm just remembering it differently. I don't know. It has that whole frustration of the exceptionally slow moving killer. I'm talking moving at a glacial pace. And the struggling victim, falling over themselves trying to get away. It's painful. You're just sitting there and yelling at the screen fucking go! But pacing aside, this movie is a classic and it's so important to the genre for so many reasons. It came out during a huge era for horror. The same year as The Shining, Prom Night, The Changeling, Cannibal Holocaust, and a few years off from Halloween and the first Nightmare on Elm Street. So this movie is certainly in good company when it comes to the era in which it was released. And on top of that, I do believe it's the first summer camp slasher movie. I mean, if it's not the first, it's gotta be pretty fucking close. And that's huge for horror. The summer camp slasher is such a staple, and the subgenre exploded after this film. Sleepaway Camp, Twisted Nightmare, The Burning, just to name a few, and then obviously the endless Friday the 13th sequels and subsequent movies. And speaking of which, isn't it insane that the hockey mask doesn't make an appearance in part 1? I mean, it makes sense, obviously, considering the ending, and we all know the movie, so, it adds up, but that symbol is just so heavily associated with the franchise, and it doesn't even show up in the first one. It's also cool to see a star like Kevin Bacon in this movie, which obviously made me think of Johnny Depp getting his start in Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's funny because, as I always do while watching a movie, I had the IMDb open, and it seems like none of the other actors in the movie really went on to do anything else, which is crazy considering how enormously popular this movie was. Overall, regardless of the pacing and the wildly inappropriate content that did not age well, this is such an important movie for horror fans and just the genre overall.
Alex, I totally agree with you when it comes to the pacing. While I do appreciate the world building that we get at the beginning of the film, I do feel that it takes a while for us to be able to get to the meat of the story. However, it makes up for it with likable characters, the casual outdoor setting of a summer camp, but most importantly, the practical effects, gore, and kills by Tom Savini. More specifically, Annie's kill at the beginning of the film with the throat slit, and Jack getting his throat pierced with an arrow. These effects still hold up today, and it's a great illustration of how powerful practical effects can be in a horror film. I also have to mention the score by Harry Manfredini. That theme carries throughout the entire franchise, and it's also recognizable outside of the film. And then there's Betsy Palmer. I love her performance so much in this film. You feel the pain in her voice as she describes her son Jason drowning, and then the anger that she then directs at the counselor, specifically Alice. How she can go from sympathetic to terrifying within an instant is incredible. The long chase scene and fight between Alice and Mrs. Voorhees is a little goofy, but once Alice decapitates Mrs. Voorhees, that completely clinches the film for me. It goes without saying that Friday the 13th is an instant classic, and although it isn't my favorite in the franchise, I can't deny its influence or the mark it's made on the horror genre.
I'm gonna have to combine a bunch of your ratings for this one, dude. It's clearly an instant classic, and everyone should own a copy, but the bottom line is that it's really just a weekend rental at this point. Is it not? Especially just for seasoned horror fans. I feel like it's less revisitable, in my opinion, than other genre staples. But hey, everyone's different, right? That's the fun of horror. We all like different shit.
Big thank you goes to Thrillhouse of Horror for joining me on this review of Friday the 13th. Be sure to go and check out her YouTube channel. I've left a link down in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel even more and get exclusive perks as well as getting your name in the opening credits, become a Patreon today. Link is down in the description below. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
You're going to Camp Blood, ain't you? You'll never come back again. It's got a death curse.